So we have begun. Again, thank you. Welcome to anybody who's already on the call. This is the Interscholastic Unified Tennis Preseason District Representative Readiness Briefing. We are recording this presentation for you to go back on or share with others who could not listen live. Here's our agenda for tonight. We're going to keep this straight and to the point, under 30 minutes if possible. We're going to introduce myself, Kara, and Mark, who will be the faces you see in the new school year, primarily, plus whoever the new chair is. Talk about administration of the season, rules updates, reminders, regular season host responsibilities, and then we'll have opportunity for question and answers at the end. So if you only work with tennis, you did not probably get a chance to meet Kara Marinek, who is the new director of Interscholastic Unified Sports as of November 2018. Kara is the new go-to point person for Interscholastic Unified Sports. If you're wondering where Melissa Kelly is, she there was an organizational change, and Melissa is now the director of development of Interscholastic Unified Sports, or I'm sorry, school sports programming. So Kara is the new go-to person. And it does bear mentioning right now that Melissa Kelly is still the point of contact for certain members of the Interscholastic Unified Sports community throughout the state. However, coaches should not be directly contacting Melissa Kelly for any sort of questions during the season. Kara is the point person. Of course, just to remind all of you, you as the district representatives are always the first point of contact. But we do know people jump ship all the time and they go up the chain. But Kara is the person you go to for all your questions. Here's me. I'm Ellie Rock. I'm the current Unified Tennis Chair, and I have been in this position since 2016. However, I am sadly, regretfully leaving the position at the end of this school year. I have taken a new job that's full-time, and it's just not plausible for me to be able to maintain the level of support I've been able to give the program. So we have returning Mark Sunkel as our Unified Tennis Assistant Chair. And Mark is on the line if we have any questions. And Mark, you are encouraged to jump in if I miss anything. Oops, sorry, this is Coach X. I'm sorry, guys, but this is the district representative contact page. We are really excited to have back pretty much everybody from last year. There are no, I think, new faces for tennis, and all positions currently are filled. Just to note that for Allegheny and Garrett County, Kara is the new contact for the coaches in that District 1 area. Previously, it had been Melissa Anger because there is no district representative for District 1. But you'll see Anna Rundle. Sorry for spelling it wrong, Tim Stedman. I do know that that is a typo. So we have Anna Rundle is Tim Stedman, Baltimore City, Tanisha Montgomery. Seth Rock is in District 8. That's serving both Calvert and Charles. Katie Schenker is serving in a multi-county district. That is Caroline, Kent, Queen Anne's, and Talbot. Dave Morset in Dorchester, Somerset, Worcester. I'm sorry, I'm scanning. And Michelle Hill back in Frederick, Barb Cosner in Washington. Jen Hill serving Wycomico again. So all of you, so that you're familiar with you, some of you who are newer to the program, these are also people you can contact if you have questions about, best practices. Okay. So in spring 2019, this is your opportunity kind of before the school year ends to set your season up. So district representatives, you should contact your supervisors of athletics and or athletics directors to make sure that you have a coach at each school. You can actually try to set your regular season playing schedule and your district tournament date and location now. That's actually probably easier to do before school closes out. It's hard to get a hold of people over the summer. And then find out your equipment needs and who has to fill those at any schools. Make sure that if you have coaching vacancies, they're advertised. And then go ahead and schedule and advertise your coaches trainings and things like that. And then your player assessment sessions and plans. Those are probably the most difficult things to try to plan once there's no one in an office at your school district, or trying to do them kind of to be determined when the school season starts. So if you can get those set up before you leave, or even tentatively so, it really helps. This is also when you'll display your recruitment posters, host any interest meetings. This is for coaches. They'll host interest meetings, get your sports packets ready, busing schedule, match schedule, all that stuff. It's a good idea to distribute information to rising freshmen. So if there are any back to school nights or any kind of rising eighth grade rising into ninth grade interest nights or things like that, try to get your information for unified tennis, and also things school district specific, like sports physicals and things like that, into the hands of eighth graders who are rising into ninth grade right now. Also, don't neglect special education department chairs and things like that, National Honor Society, Best Buddies advisors, etc., because they can identify not only good athletes for the program, but also partners. This is the table we will fill in as you guys provide for us the date of your preseason meeting and your district tournament date. We'll go over the timeline in a second. So here's the timeline for the season. Because of the post-Labor Day start, but also the need to get in our state tournament before winter sports begin on November 15th. I have tried to make the deadlines as far out as we, like to the last possible day. So you strictly enforce deadlines. There can be no extensions. And this is something that we fight with every single year, but it's just probably time that we start saying to coaches, I'm sorry, I will not extend this deadline anymore. It's a deadline. That's why it's called a deadline. So you technically can begin practices as of Wednesday, August 14th, according to the MPSSAA fall start date. That generally doesn't happen with unified sports, but it is an option, just so people know. September 3rd school starts, so practice can begin that week. And we have always said that interest meetings and like first sign up meetings and those things can help, or can, count as like a first practice. Have your player assessments done, go forth on the week of September 16th through 20th. That is for player ratings. This is another thing to try to for the summer, because September comes quick. So identify who is going to be your rater. Try to get whoever's done it in the past to come back, because they are familiar with the unified sports rating system. And if you are having trouble finding someone, get to Special Olympics, contact Kara or the new chair or Mark well ahead of time so that they can help you to identify somebody. This is really important because we still have inconsistency of rating sessions, and it kind of comes out after the fact that coaches are rating their own players and someone's just signing off on it, or high school students are doing the ratings. That cannot happen this school year. It has to be an independent rater. It should be someone who has a high level of tennis knowledge. Your school's varsity coach is a great option. But that should be, you should start working on identifying who that's going to be now and set that calendar date. For large counties and also for districts that have multiple counties, it might be a good idea to schedule two rating sessions in two different locations, or coordinate busing to a central location. And for counties that are in close proximity, you certainly could share a location and a rater. So that's another reason to go back to our contact list. I'm not gonna flip back there right now, and contact those who are in close proximity to you. Monday, September 23rd is when applications for participation and the affirmation of eligibility is due, as well as Class A requirements. Please note Dottie Rush is who those Class A requirements are going to go to, and those are for all non-student athletes. And then Monday, September 30th, postseason registrations are due from coaches to the district representative. You guys, as the district representatives, have to vet those before they go to the chair, Mark, the assistant chair. That's who, or whoever is going to be scheduling the district tournament. We're getting better at vetting them. And I did create a YouTube video, which will be in your resource folder, for how to create teams and how to check those postseason registrations. But they're still, as of last year, kind of coming in, having not been checked for error. So as long as you keep to that timeline, district tournaments should flow quite well, the window for those are October 9th through October 23rd. And getting those dates to Special Olympics as soon as possible also ensures that we can help you with tournament personnel and that sort of thing, except that you as a district representatives are, if you're not the tournament director, you should be designating one in your district. And we do want and hope that local school systems are the tournament team, that they are playing with personnel and getting people out. I think as of last year, pretty much everybody was independent. But if you're going to need help with that, contact Kara. Thursday, October 24th is the state tournament pre-competition webinar. The link is already there, and you will get this PowerPoint tonight after the call. And then the state tournament is going to be Tuesday, November 5th. We are back at Loyola University, which is where we held the state tournament last year. And the inclement weather date will be November 6th. Okay. And as has always been advertised, if you are not going to make the minimum requirements for a unified sports season, your new contact again is Kara, if you need to work with her for a waiver of some sort. Again, last year we went with a paperless season. We are going to do that again this year. The Google folder is actually already set up, and most of the new resources are in there. The new resource guide is in there. The only thing that has not been updated is the meticulous review. We'll talk about that in a second. But all the files and folders from previous years have been moved over. So if you want to visit that Google folder and start going through, you certainly can. What we need you to do, and as you see, coaches contact list, coaches contact list, coaches contact list. We need all of the coaches' contact information. So asking your coaches to begin populating that file right now is great, and that is something that's off your plate if they do it themselves, but we do ask that before the season begins, you go in and find anybody who's missing contact information, put it in there. And the reason that is so important is that when we go to communicate with coaches like district tournament winners and track people down for state tournament requirements and things like that, it's really hard to find someone if their contact information is not listed in that Google folder. So please make sure you do that ongoing leading up to the sports season and once it begins. As I said, the coach's resource guide is actually in there already in that Google folder, but the meticulous review will be done before June 1st. So once June 1st hits, the folder should be completely up to date. Coaches trainings. As in the last few years, Special Olympics encourages options for the coaches trainings or briefings that you're going to hold. One option one, is a live webinar that you, the district rep, will referencing a PowerPoint, the template for which we will provide, focusing on the administrative components like forms and due dates, review the official rules and coaches resource points of emphasis, and demonstrate how to access online resources like the Google folder. And then that webinar will be recorded and can be shared with your coaches. Option 2 is to have an in-person training where you will lead the meeting, focusing on administrative components, forms, due dates, etc., all of the things that you would do in the webinar, but you will just do that in person. And I don't know if either option has more success than another. It's really just a personal preference. It's whatever option is going to get you the most live participation so that everybody has the information with fewer questions and if they miss, that sort of thing. So districts within close proximity are strongly encouraged to collaborate and schedule various dates together. So that's not a bad idea, except that you as the district rep are allowed to kind of alter some of the due dates to fit your, if you want an earlier submission of paperwork so that you have more time to check it, etc. And that might not be relevant for a different district, but definitely communicate with each other if that option might work for you. Option 3 is an in-person training or briefing that you'll lead, focusing on administrative components, reviewing all the resources, and then offering a practical on-court segment to demonstrate the sport and review the sport competition or coaching best practices. This works phenomenally well, especially if you have a lot of new coaches. And if you need recommendations on a practitioner in your area who could lead the on-court, that is something that's really, really beneficial for new coaches, and also takes the pressure off of somebody who doesn't have any experience in tennis, but can become a coach. And just to show how effective that on-court can be, I did not play tennis. Mark is a tennis person. Mark is a varsity coach and someone with high tennis IQ, and he coached Unified, but I did not. But I took all of the Special Olympics trainings for IUS, and I went to 2 on-court practicums, and I dug into all the resources, and my team was very successful. And I was able to coach 2 state qualifying teams 2 years in a row. So it's definitely a good idea. There is no change to the affirmation of eligibility, which has to come in with all of your applications for participation. So the affirmation of eligibility, there is 1 per school. And then there is 1 application for participation per student athlete. Every team must submit one of these. This is how we verify eligibility. And this form is due to you, the district rep, on Monday, May 23rd. Of course, you may adjust due dates before the published due date if that is what you need to do in your district. It's really important that you remember in this part that I'm circling with my mouse, the state invitational credentialing. Now, we know that there might be, you can't predict we'll need to attend the state meet, but as much as possible, any non-student athletes, any assistant coaches, any team moms, paraprofessionals, team manager, an interpreter, anyone who is not a coach or a student athlete needs to be put in this section, and they have to complete their Class A requirements. That is so we can give them credentials for the state invitational. Yes, they still have to do this even if they don't qualify for the state invitational, because this form is due well in advance of district tournaments. The application for participation, there is a change. If you only do tennis, this was implemented after tennis of last year. There is 1 form collected for each school year now. So since tennis is the first sport, you'll collect 1 for everybody on the team. And then in future seasons, in winter and spring, someone who submitted 1 does not have to submit another one. But tennis being the first of the school year, everyone will turn these in. And then this is due to you, the district rep. You are the immediate point of contact. And then that's due Monday, September 23rd as well. As always, Class A clearance is required of all non-student athletes. It's 2 short steps. We'll talk about that in the next slide. It's valid for 3 years. If there's any question about who might still need Class A credentialing. I believe we can direct, well, Kara can answer from you, the district reps. It's a good idea to just check because I do know that some mistakes can happen and people can fall through the cracks. But all Class A documents are to be submitted via scan and email to Dottie Rush at somd.org on or before Monday, September 23rd. Certainly, if you're signing a new coach up, new assistant coach, anybody who's going to be credentialed for the state meet, go ahead and have them fill that out immediately and scan an email to Dottie to avoid the paperwork rush right before the deadline. Okay. So these are the steps for Class A requirements. You have to pass a background check, which will be administered once the completed attachment that you see on the screen is received, and then passing a protective behaviors training, which is available at this link. So as soon as you submit your application, you can go ahead and take the protecting behaviors training. It's always important that you print the confirmation page or take a screenshot or something to have some proof that you actually took it in case something gets lost in the shuffle. Non-student athletes who are minors, who are 17 years or younger, they must also complete and submit the student minor volunteer references. And a coach can be a reference. I believe it just has to be someone who's not an immediate family member. So don't forget that part. That often gets overlooked. So student managers also have to complete that as well. This is what the protective behaviors training screen looks like. It is very easy. It does not take a long time. I believe I did it. I think I did it on my laptop just because I didn't want to lose something on my phone, but it is really easy to complete. So just encourage people to do this right away. The COMAR regulations, this has been in discussion over the last 2 years. We used to interpret this strictly that these two COMAR regulations that are seemingly in conflict with one another that or work together, however your interpretation is. A varsity or junior varsity team member of the previous season may not participate in interscholastic competition and in intramurals or school-sponsored programs in the same sport outside the sport season. And secondary school students in grades 9 through 12 who participate in the auxiliary athletic program may not have participated on an interscholastic athletic team in the same sport. So those COMAR regulations exist. They do obviously provide for some exclusions of varsity athletes. However, we could not really come to a consensus. So the consensus is that this is up to local school systems to enforce, and that Special Olympics will not be the enforcing agent for these COMAR regulations. So if you have a question about the interpretation of these regulations, you need to talk to your director of athletics or supervisor of athletics. And so rule changes are solicited on alternate years that are the odd years. So 2019 is a year to submit rule changes. There were no significant rule changes that were addressed, but there are going to be two clarifications for 2019. So the first is that in the instance of a stray ball entering a court of play from another court, the player should call a let if the ball impedes play and the play should stop. But if the ball does not impede or a let is not called, then play continues. That has been added to the resource guide. And so that's just, I think over the years we've observed that definitely, especially with vigorous play, stray balls can go all over the place, and there hasn't really been an express protocol for how to handle that. And number two is this. So you can see the words on your screen, but I'm going to explain. Since interscholastic unified tennis has existed, there's always been the question of what do we do if competition doesn't exist within a certain category of players. So this generally applies to get rated very high and end up in the yellow ball, full court category, or in some instances down in the red ball, short court category, and either at the local level or the district level tournament and I believe at least once at the state level tournament, there existed no competition within that category. So the question has always been, what do we do? And so it has not been expressly spelled out in the resource guide before, but internally, the way we handled that and the way I believe it got added to the district host tournament host manual last year, and was also told to district tournament directors that the teams, the doubles teams that were in the higher rated category would play down with the highest rated doubles pair in the next lowest category. So a yellow ball player would play team would play the highest rated green ball team, and they would play down at the green level. And some coaches have expressed that this is not necessarily fair, that in varsity level competition that would result in forfeiture points. So what we've done is we are empowering you at the district level to handle the scoring of those matches how you see fit. So if you if it seems, especially with the yellow ball teams, where there is such a variation between that doubles team and the next highest rated pair, which can be more than 10 points at, depending on the pool of competition. You can figure out how best that should be handled. However, you should communicate that very clearly to your coaches. And this has been added to the coaches resource guide. So at the district tournament level, say you decide you're going to have one guaranteed scoring match with an option of a second in some cases, or you're going to offer a guaranteed 2 scoring matches for every pair, but you do not have reasonable competition for a yellow ball team or a red ball team or such, you can choose to give forfeiture points and then play an exhibition match, or you can choose to have them play the next highest rated pair and have them play down, and you can play it for points. But that is up to you. We just ask that you clearly define that expectation before your district tournament, and also however you scoring of local matches, doing that in the same way. Okay, just make sure that you clearly communicate it. At the state level tournament, however, everyone will play for points. Everyone will play. So what will happen at the state level competition is they will always play the next highest rated pair for down a level. So yellow ball would play down to green, and they'll play at the green level, and they will play for points. And that's because at the state level, we think it's really important that student athletes are actually earning that point with play. And I'll take, if anybody has any questions on that, there's questions at the end. I'll unmute everybody and you can ask about that. So district layout remains the same from the last few years. St. Mary's and Montgomery and Prince George's do not participate. Hartford, Carroll, they don't, as per usual, they don't participate in unified tennis, but the districts are the same across all the unified sports seasons. Okay, we're actually winding down. So the synopsis, your to-do list, your district representative checklist is back on slides 7, 8, and 9. Available now is the coaches contact list, which you can begin populating or asking your coaches to populate. You can visit that link and list all the coaches and their contact information. And then on or after, Kara inserted June 3rd, because that's Monday. Obviously, June 1st is over the weekend. You can visit the Unified Tennis folder at that Google Drive link and see all of the resources that are contained therein. Of course, as I said earlier on the webinar, you can go and visit it now if you want. The only thing that isn't updated is the meticulous review of the resource guide, which is just going to be updated from last year. If you need uniforms or equipment, your coaches should contact athletic workers. do that first, but if funds are not available at the school or the Board of Ed level, you, the district rep, can contact Kara Marinek, and she can talk to you about grants and things like that. Just a reminder to have coaches inventory uniforms, and all new purchased for post 2013-2014 school years. Interscholastic Unified Sports must have the Unified Sports pill-shaped logo appear on the shirt. And it can be, you can see where it's allowed to be positioned. This is also in the resource guide as well as the Google folder. So you can actually, and there was a question one year about whether there needs to be a release, I think, of the image to printing companies. If you have any questions about that, contact Kara, but I believe just by virtue of giving it to you, you have permission to use it. Just to look ahead, in last year and in previous unified sports seasons, the sport chair conducts like a 15-minute weekly check-in call. It's a good way to stay in touch, report out on progress, ask for help, etc. So please visit the SurveyMonkey link for time availability. As best you can predict it for the fall. That will begin in the fall. And, you know, those calls are usually recorded. So if there's a time that's chosen that's just totally not available for you, you do have the option of listening to it afterwards. This is, I think, new as of last winter sports season, but the local school systems, there is the opportunity for a registration manager, which is an additional stipend of $500 per season. This is a person at the local school system level that can collect the registration, check it for, you know, and make sure it's all in compliance and processing that. I'm just going to back out of this PowerPoint real quick because I believe I have that. I do not. I'm sorry. I did not get that ready before, but I will include on my my follow-up email to this the registration manager process and responsibilities so that you can identify someone in your district to do that. Okay, at this point, any questions, concerns, discussion? This is usually where I mess up, and I'm going to do my best to unmute you. So that if anybody has any questions, you can do that now. So I am unmuting all of you, except my screen still says you're muted. I'm unmuting you all individually. If anybody has any questions.
Nothing here.
Okay. Oops, sorry, Barb. If you're trying to talk, I didn't unmute you. There we go. Okay, Barb self-muted. Okay. Okay, everybody is unmuted at this point. If there are no questions, or if you have any questions after the fact, Mark, if you're still online, do you want to weigh in on anything or clarify?
You're good.
Okay, Mark says I'm good.
As always.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so with that, I guess if you have any questions after the fact, you can still email me kind of through the end of this school year. CC Kara on any communications kept into the loop as I transition out. It has been an absolute pleasure being a part of Unified Sports for the last, 7 years, and with the tennis program for as a chair the last 3 and 4 at 5, with the assisted chair. So it's really been a pleasure working with all of you. I'd love to see the program grow. I'm sure I will still be around in the capacity of a volunteer. And of course, the chair position will be available to submit applications. If you know of anybody who's interested in that, to contact Melissa and Kara for that. So thank you so much for being on today, and I hope you guys have a stellar season. And again, you can visit the folder as on June 3rd for the update of the meticulous review, and then you have everything you need to begin the season. So thank you, everybody, and have a great night.